Hi, how's it going? It's Caden and I'm back. I'm doing a monthly market update, but this month I wanted to do something a little different. I know every month I kind of go through and tell you what's new and what's been going on with interest rates, prices, and all that. And to kind of celebrate being halfway through the year, I wanted to put together a list. I went and did some research and I put together every single city in the Maricopa Greater Phoenix area. There's 25 of them, and I saw what the difference between the median sales price from January this year and June of this year, so 6 month difference between the median sales prices. I saw basically what cities appreciated the most, what values went up the most, what values went down the most from January of this year, 2023, to June of this year, 2023. And the results kind of shocked me. So I'm going over the top three cities, and then for the best appreciation, and then I'm going over the bottom three cities for the worst appreciation over the year. Now, there weren't very many cities that did not appreciate, which I thought was very interesting. I think there were only three that didn't appreciate, and one of them I wouldn't really count, and we'll kind of get to why. But without further ado, let's start with the most appreciating, the best city. If you would have bought in January, that would have been the best investment for your money. And the city was Peoria. Wasn't surprised by this much at all. Peoria is a great city to move in. A ton of people love moving here. It just has a great lifestyle. There's a ton of big master plan communities like Estancia and West Wing that just add to the value a ton, and there's still homes being built in Estancia. Peoria is kind of that city that, it's kind of not the outskirts, but it's one of the outside cities that can continue to grow and continue to just have more homes being built and built and built. It's also just kind of a really cool lifestyle. I'd kind of say kind of Scottsdale-ish just because of kind of the golf lifestyle that it has, and just the master plan, the very luxury feel to a lot of the communities up here. Great schools. It's a really great place to start a family, as well as it has a few great retirement communities as well. So it has kind of the best of both worlds. And the further north you get, the more deserty lifestyle, the more hiking you have, the more things like that. But the prices in Peoria went up 14.9%. You can see there on the chart, went from 477,000 to almost 550,000. So I used to kind of say it was a cheaper alternative to living in Chandler. Chandler is a very, very popular place for families to move. It's very highly rated for schools. But I mean, for the first time in a long time, it actually had a higher median sales price in the same month than Chandler did. I mean, both of them had 200 transactions go on, just about 200 transactions go on this last month of June. And Peoria had a higher median sales price than Chandler. It is crazy to say that, because Chandler has kind of been, it's the best city to start a family, but it's, really expensive. Maybe it's better for you to just buy in Peoria because it's also just a great place to start a family. I'd say Peoria might have also grown a lot in this past 6 months because of obviously how popular it is to start a family, and people coming in from out of state, they see, it's a cheaper alternative than these East Valley cities. So they've kind of been buying, and when more people buy in a city, the prices go up, and then now maybe it isn't a cheaper alternative to Chandler. I think that a lot of people who are coming into the state and have employment in Scottsdale or downtown, I think that it's not a terrible drive. So if they have a family and they're moving to Peoria, they can still work kind of out in downtown and in Scottsdale and the areas like that. But yeah, other than that, I'm not surprised at all that Peoria has grown so much. I think it's going to continue to grow just because of how family focused. And I think that that's just kind of the way that the valley is trending. They're going to, a lot of people like living in newer homes. There's room to build newer homes in Peoria. And a lot of people like the lifestyle in Peoria. And a lot of people like that as of now, it is a cheaper alternative to a lot of these other cities. Next on the list, the city with the second best appreciation in the valley. This came out of nowhere. I asked a ton of people in my office, Peoria is number one for best appreciation. What do you think number two is? Not a single person got it. It was Apache Junction. So Apache Junction is a really far out east city, past Chandler, past Gilbert. It's kind of, in the past, it's known for some manufactured homes, not a lot of single family homes out there, but that is until recently. There's actually a builder out there, a developer who bought, I think it was over 600 acres, and they're building over 10,000 homes in Apache Junction. And at first I didn't get it at all. Why are these developers buying in Apache Junction? I had to do a little bit more research, and it kind of makes a little bit more sense now. The valley is constantly growing. It's constantly looking for new places to put new homes. Kind of why Peoria grew so much, because there's so many places to put new homes. Apache Junction is no different. Yeah, it's kind of far out there, but it's not terribly far out there from the East Valley cities like Chandler and Gilbert, and those places that people really like to go. So these developers buy a ton of land in Apache Junction, build a ton of brand new homes in Apache Junction that isn't too far away from Gilbert, Chandler. So you can come live in the East Valley, buy in Apache Junction, drive about 20 minutes to get to those great schools in Gilbert and Chandler, but your house is a lot cheaper than buying a home in Chandler and Gilbert. I mean, it kind of just makes sense the way that, the valley's going to continue to grow. These other cities like Glendale and a lot of Scottsdale, it's landlocked. There's no way to build new homes there without taking down other buildings or just building on, really weird lots. But these outskirt cities like Peoria, well, Peoria's not really an outskirt city, but there's just room for it to grow. And Apache Junction, there's so much room to just build new homes. New homes bring a lot of value. A lot of value is going to bring the appreciation of these other homes that already existed there up. So Apache Junction went up 12%. It went from $352,000 to $395,000 for median sales price. And you can see, if you kind of see a little pattern here, that from January, almost every city has doubled its transactions, its monthly transactions. So the amount of transactions that happened in January, they doubled this month in June, which is normal. Normally our winter is a little bit slower just because of the holidays. People typically aren't moving if they don't have to. And, the summer, it heats up here weather-wise, and it also kind of heats up here market-wise. A lot of more people are buying than normal because school is out. It's easier to move if you have kids. And just kind of, if you're moving in from out of state, you don't have to worry about much during the summertime. Now, the third city that grew the most in appreciation was Cave Creek. And it grew by 11.6%, which is, again, a lot. You can see there are 6 cities that grew in double-digit appreciation percent. That's pretty crazy. So these last 6 months, home values have definitely been on the rise. But Cave Creek, the reason I think that Cave Creek grew a lot, I think it's because it has a lot of room for new builds. So this Cave Creek statistic is taking into account Cave Creek proper and those Cave Creek homes that are part of the city of Phoenix but have the Cave Creek mailing address. So those are kind of more of the city or the family-focused area of Cave Creek, I would say. There's more schools down there, more homes with like little HOA, the subdivided homes, things like that. And, since it takes into account Cave Creek proper and, the people with the Cave Creek mailing address, I would say Cave Creek mailing address area, there's a ton of desert area out there. There's a ton of room for new homes, which there have been a lot of new homes. You can kind of see that trend that if you're buying a home near or in a new build community, the chances are your property value is going to appreciate. At least that's what the stats are telling us. I mean, the last 3 cities, the big popular, common denominator has been there's a lot of new builds in that city. So maybe kind of buying a home in a city that is growing like that, where they're having so many new builds go up, is a good idea. Another thing about Cave Creek proper, is the more luxury side of Cave Creek. That's where a lot of those $1 million homes where, if you're looking online and you see these mansions, a lot of the times these mansions you're seeing aren't actually in Scottsdale. A lot of the time they are in Cave Creek. I think Cave Creek is also a cheaper alternative to Scottsdale. So that's another reason a lot of people have been buying in Cave Creek. The median price for Cave Creek is much lower than Scottsdale, and they still have that Cave Creek proper row with all those cool bars. It's kind of like an Old Town Scottsdale feel going down that street. So you get a lot of the entertainment and things like that Old Town Scottsdale has, but for a cheaper price to live there and a really cool home. You're also a little further out in the desert, so if people like hiking or golf a little bit more, maybe Cave Creek appeals more than these other, luxury markets. And I think that could also be a reason that Cave Creek has grown so much. Now to talk about the bottom 3 cities, the cities that had the worst appreciation out of all the cities in the Maricopa County, Greater Phoenix area. Now you can see I'm going to put the whole graph up here now, and if you're interested in this graph, I can send it to you. Just shoot me over an email or a text and I can send it over to you. I think it's a pretty cool resource to have, especially if you're already living here in Phoenix. You can kind of know what cities are doing better than others. So you can see there only 3 cities declined in value in the past 6 months. That kind of goes to show that if you were buying a home in January, you were getting a better deal than these people in June are, especially because the rates were a little bit lower and the prices were, well, in some cases 15% lower, which is crazy. That's like a COVID statistic right there. So the worst city was Carefree. Carefree is kind of a small little city town near Cave Creek. And this, I'm going to really go over this. I'm going to glaze over. I'm not going to talk about it too much. You can see only 4 transactions in January and 7 transactions in June. It's a very small niche market, and almost all of the homes are $1 million, $10 million homes. The only difference is I think that in January, like $10 million homes, they sit on the market for a much longer time because there's a kind of a niche audience to those. And in January, I think one of them actually sold. And then in June, just, a couple $1 million houses sold. So it kind of messed with the medians. I don't think property in Carefree actually declined too much. I think it was just because, 4 transactions. I think there were just 4 bigger transactions than the 7 that took place this month. So moving on to Wickenburg. Now, Wickenburg surprised me. And again, the reason for the growth is purely speculation, as I kind of mentioned earlier. The stats are all real. I pulled those myself. I know that the stats are all correct. Pulled it from the MLS. The reasons for the appreciation, purely speculation. The only few reasons I can think that Wickenburg would have declined are maybe, those different sales in each month. Like I said, maybe just, Wickenburg has a few manufactured home areas. So maybe more manufactured homes sold in June than they did in January. That could be a reason. Another reason I'm thinking of, you can see only 12 and 14 transactions took place. It's a smaller town. Markets in smaller towns tend to fluctuate a little bit more. There's not, really a steady line that holds the market accountable and really is like, this is what it's worth. It kind of can fluctuate a little bit more. But again, I mean, that was the worst real drop we saw. I'm not really including Carefree because, a 27.5% drop is just not realistic. I don't think it was really like that. It was just kind of the type of homes that sold. So you can see the worst drop on the list was 4%, which is pretty low over 6 months. I mean, that kind of shows you how much these prices have just gone up lately. Another thing I could think of is the snowbird lifestyle. A lot of people in Wickenburg are kind of retired. There are a couple schools up there, but I would say for the most part, a lot of people in Wickenburg kind of live that snowbird lifestyle. They're retired. They come down here in the winters. So in the summers, maybe these homes are a little bit harder to sell, and these buyers are just kind of taking advantage of a slight buyer's market and getting these homes for a little bit cheaper than they were in January because so many people were buying a home to live here during the winter. That is another speculation I kind of have on that. Now, Sun City West actually made the list for one of the worst appreciated cities, and you can see it declined by 0.01%. I have the graph kind of rounding to the nearest tenth, so it looks like it stayed the same at 0.0%, but it went from $400,000 to $399,500. The median price dropped $500, and you can see still double the amount of transactions happened in Sun City West from January to June. So the market is still, heating up there. There's still 2 times the amount of transactions, but the median sales price basically stayed the same. That kind of, my speculation on that is, like I just kind of talked about, the snowbird lifestyle. Maybe these buyers are taking advantage of a little bit of a, slight buyer's market because the homes are maybe taking a little bit longer to sell because it's summertime. Even though we see more action in the summer, it could vary in these age-restricted communities where, less people are coming in to visit their friends who are living here. A lot of people, they'll have friends who live in Sun City West. They'll come and visit in the winters and they'll pop into an open house and they just find the perfect house and they buy it on spot. Less people come to Arizona in the summers to visit their friends because less of their friends are actually living here. A lot of their friends are just snowbirds and they're going back up. So we see a lot less visits here in the age-restricted communities, but we see a lot more transactions. So that my guess on that is just, taking advantage of, houses sitting a little bit longer. And then another kind of guess I had was just maybe, you know, Sun City, the people there notice prices are going up. So I'm going to list my house for a little bit higher than I think. And then it kind of sits stale for a little while, and then they end up having to sell for a little bit less than it was actually worth in the beginning. That's another guess, just because, you know, homes can sit on the market for so long and kind of lose value every month that they're on there, because less and less people want to buy a house that's been sitting on the market for so long. Now, the last city we're going to talk about is Buckeye, and it is crazy to think that I am talking about the third worst appreciating city. It's supposed to be, you know, this city is supposed to be terrible, right? And it actually went up 0.3% in price. Now, it's going to show, you know, it just keeps showing you that prices have been going up these last 6 months. Now, Buckeye, the reason I think it's grown the least out of all the cities is just because, well, Buckeye is very known for its master plan communities. Verrado, huge master plan communities, basically its own city. I think that maybe one day it could become its own city. I don't think like legally they actually will, but it definitely could be its own city. Verrado basically makes up most of the market over at Buckeye, and then a couple other smaller communities. Now, what I noticed, you know, I've been taking actually a few clients out to the Verrado. They're interested in, you know, buying maybe Victory at Verrado or just in the general population part of Verrado. I think that I've kind of noticed with the builders, at least, they're kind of at a stale point where they're finishing up these last builds. So these new builds are becoming specs. They're waiting for a buyer. And the longer a spec sits on the market, the lower its value gets. And then they're going to buy more land to build new homes on. So I've just noticed that kind of the builders in Verrado and Buckeye are just at kind of a weird stale point right now, where their specs necessarily aren't selling, and they're buying more land to begin new builds on for people who want custom homes and things. So I think the market could still keep going up there. I just think it's kind of at a weird point, like a stalling point, just a buffer point where these specs are waiting to be sold and they're buying the new homes. So the kind of building is just at a weird halt. But that's all I got for you guys. Again, if you want this graph or my living in Arizona guide, where I just kind of explain everything about living in Arizona and what it's like to relocate out here, if you just shoot me a text or an email for either of those. My name is Caden Leali. I'm a realtor out here in the Phoenix Valley of Arizona. And I hope this kind of like helped you out and made you realize, you know, what cities are going up and what cities are going down, the few that are going down. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me. My name and number are on the screen right now. And thank you for watching.